So we're talking with Jose Rodriguez today. He's a local activist, also a member of the Grand Rapids School Board. So thanks again for speaking with us, Jose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I want to just start off with asking you if you could say something about your involvement, what it was during the April 6th Justice for Patrick March that happened here in downtown Grand Rapids.
Yeah, so my involvement has been with now the Comrades Collective, just being police abolitionists, but also not just that, but seeking justice for Patrick Lyoya, seeking justice for anybody that has experienced police brutality, especially being murdered by the police. We want them to be held accountable for their actions. And so on April 6th, that was just a few days after the 2-year anniversary of Patrick Lyoya's murder. And so, of course, we had to take to the streets alongside Patrick's family to demand justice and to see that Chris Scher have his day in court and be prosecuted for the murder of Patrick Lyoya.
Okay. And then how many days after the march were you contacted by the GRPD, and what are they charging you with?
So I was contacted. I received a letter in the mail about 2.5 weeks after the fact. So I believe it was, our march was April 6th. I believe it was 2 weeks and middle of the week, Wednesday. I got a letter saying that I was being charged with a misdemeanor of failure or refusal to follow lawful order of a police officer. And that was very shocking news to me. Not shocking that the police or that the GRPD would pull something like this, but shocking because truthfully, I wasn't marching out there to get arrested. I don't think any of us were trying to get any charges brought against us. And the fact that the GRPD found, many things to charge us with is actually pretty astounding.
Yeah. Were they specific in which, when you say they were charging you with failure to abandon a police command or whatever, were they specific, or they didn't give any details?
They did not give any details.
Okay.
And so currently I am awaiting the prosecutor to send that information and for me to have a meeting of discovery with my attorney to see what this is even about, because while I did have a few interactions with the GRPD that day, nothing stands out to me that would say that I failed to follow a lawful order. And so it was pretty shocking that I received that charge in the first place. So I am curious to hear what they're claiming that charge was.
Yeah. I mean, I was there, and I was with you, close by you, quite a bit of the time, and I was the police liaison, so I didn't see anything that anybody had done that was unusual or worthy of charges. But so I guess the question would be, is if you weren't doing anything really different than anybody else who was there that day, why do you think they chose to sort of target you on that day?
I do believe this is very intentional targeting of myself, of other activists. I think because, the charges came pretty late after the fact, I think they went with anybody that they know, that they have the names of, that they've, had charges filed against prior, just honestly to kind of dissuade us from being out protesting for justice for Patrick Lyoya, because I don't believe I did anything different than any other person out there did. My partner was next to me the entire time, and she she even was like, hey, let's take a step back. I even told some younger activists, hey, let's take a step back. Let's not let them have a reason to put their hands on you. And so that, thankfully I caught on video. That is kind of shows the intentionality that I had, that I wasn't out there trying to get arrested, trying to have a charge brought on me, but still they found a way to, bring that charge up. But I think it is pretty disappointing that they decided to, just target whoever they could, whoever they had the information of easily, to say, hey, here's your charge and here's your day in court. And while that process is going on, of course, we are dissuaded from going out and protesting because we don't want to have other charges brought upon us at the same time while we're awaiting our court date or our trial date. And so that is I would say, a very effective tactic by the GRPD to keep protesters from the streets, unfortunately.
Sure. I mean, and it's not lost on anybody, I don't think, that the other person who was contacted after the march by the GRPD, like yourself, are both BIPOC. Do you think there's any racial motivation in the GRPD's actions?
You know, I absolutely think there is. In fact, there have been so many instances of the GRPD, having violated civil rights of, folks of color. And so it's not surprising that the folks that were targeted for charges all happen to be people of color, and very outspoken people of color at that, right? So I do think that it sends an intentional message to our communities to say, hey, if you're thinking of speaking up against police brutality, maybe think twice, because the GRPD will come after you. But I think that we all are kind of, very, very strong, steadfast people that aren't going to let that stop us from going out into the streets. But unfortunately, there is a lot of that racial bias, and I do think that this was an intentional act of that.
Now, I mean, I obviously, and a lot of other people that you and I both know, think it's important that people know that this has happened to you and other activists after the April 6th March for Patrick Lyoya. But why do you think it's important that the broader community knows that you were specifically targeted by the GRPD after a march had already taken place?
I think it's important to know, because I think, a lot of folks, and there's always the argument of, whether we need police, whether we don't need police. And I think really to show the community that, our freedom of speech, our freedom to assemble, as you see on college campuses right now, with the encampments for Palestine, you see that being encroached upon, being threatened by the police state. And so I really think that the community needs to know of this, because this is something we should all worry about, whether you're conservative, liberal, black, white, brown. It affects all of us, right? And so I think, this is an encroachment of our rights, and I think it's starting off not too small, but it's actually starting off, at a very specifically targeted, group of people. But I think it's just going to continue to be an issue if we don't hold the GRPD and other police across the country accountable. It's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with in a bigger way later on. And I think that the community needs to know that regardless of, your status, your position, your title, how much money you make, whether you live in a nice part of area or not, the police will find a way, if they want to encroach upon your rights. And I think we all need to be wary of that and be fighting against that.
Okay. Last question, I guess, would just be sort of two-part. So how can people be supportive or in solidarity with you because you're facing this charge? And then secondly, what suggestions would you have for people about how to stay involved in the Justice for Patrick campaign?
So, first and foremost is, we've gone to the city commission meetings plenty of times, asking for accountability by the police, asking to, not continue to give the police more and more money year after year as they continue to encroach upon the rights of people. And I think one huge way you could stand with us and with folks in the community that are asking for police accountability is simply to contact your local elected officials, especially at the city commission, because that is who decides how much funding the GRPD gets. And then on the other end is how much money other areas in our community are failing to get, because we continue to increase the funding for police year after year. And at the same time, ask not just for the defunding of the GRPD, but the funding of affordable housing projects, the funding of community-led violence prevention, the funding of educational projects around Grand Rapids, because when we focus on the preventative measures, it's been proven, right, time and time again that crime will go down, higher educational attainment, crime goes down. But if we just continue to police our communities, that's just going to lead to more police brutality, more lack of police accountability. And, hopefully it doesn't happen again. But quite possibly another death of a Grand Rapids community member at the hands of the GRPD. And as far as continuing the fight for justice for Patrick Lyoya, we'd ask that you continue to talk about Patrick Lyoya, continue to talk about other victims of police brutality. Samuel DeJohn Sterling is another one. Of course, it's not the Grand Rapids Police Department, but it is, the police state. It's Michigan State Police. And if we don't fight for every victim of police brutality, then we're doing an injustice to the victims of any police brutality. So we have to stand up and fight for everybody that has been a victim, that continues to be victimized, because if we don't continue to fight for proactive measures of safety, this is going to continue to be an issue. And so come march with us when we have marches. Continue to have conversations with loved ones, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to have conversations with every person in the city, but if you have conversations with your family, with your close friends about the issues of police brutality, they're more apt to listen. And I think it takes all of us to have this be an issue that ceases to exist in the city of Grand Rapids.
Great. Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jose, for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.